Greetings and welcome to Jazzology, presented by Savage Content. I'm your host, Willard Jenkins. He's giving two jazz fans the opportunity to compete against each other for a chance to win $100. All right, Ted, name the great trumpet player whose first music teacher was his older brother, Joe. Was that A, Nicholas Payton, B, Conte Candoli, C, Roy Eldridge, D, Clifford Brown, or E, Etienne Charles? And how's that for a mixed bag answer?
Ooh.
Although connected by all being A-list trumpet players, all of them great trumpet players, different generations. That's a very tricky question, but and had I not read a biography of the person who was taught by his older brother Joe, I'd be completely confused. I have no idea whether Nicholas Payton or Conte Candoli or Clifford Brown or Etienne Charles even have an older brother, much less an older brother named Joe. But Roy Eldridge did, and his teacher was his older brother, Joe.
That's correct. Who was the Count Basie trumpeter who played the "Pop Goes the Weasel" quote on Count Basie's famous recording of April in Paris? Would that have been A, Clark Terry, B, Thad Jones, C, Buck Clayton, D, Joe Newman, or E, Harry Sweets Edison?
Whoa, that's tough. In my mind, it could be any of the three. I'm thinking it could be. It sounds like
they're all Basieites.
It sounds like something Clark Terry would do, but I'm thinking it could have been Harry Sweets Edison or Joe Newman. But I'm going to go with Clark Terry.
Clark Terry?
Yeah.
A, Clark Terry has been eliminated, so Enzo has a chance to steal the point. Enzo, who was the Count Basie trumpeter who played the "Pop Goes the Weasel" quote on Count Basie's famous recording of April in Paris? And A, Clark Terry has been eliminated. Could it have been B, Thad Jones, C, Buck Clayton, D, Joe Newman, or E, Harry Sweets Edison?
I would say Joe Newman.
You would say D, Joe Newman?
Yeah.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is B, Thad Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Which of the following contemporary trumpeters is from Los Angeles, California? Is it A, Ambrose Akinmusire, B, Jeremy Pelt, C, Dave Douglas, D, Kurt Knufke, or E, Brian Lynch?
Yeah, I don't know the hometowns here, so just going to have to hazard a guess. Trying to use process of elimination, let's say. All very fine trumpeters. So I will just guess and say Jeremy Pelt.
That is correct. Jeremy Pelt is indeed from L.A. Head trumpeter Randy Brecker studied music at which of the following schools? Was it A, Indiana University, B, Berklee College of Music, C, New England Conservatory, D, Manhattan School of Music, or E, Eastman School of Music?
Thought process first or the answer first?
No, the thought process works.
Well, during the 60s, when Randy Brecker was, in school, there weren't very many conservatories of jazz, schools of higher education where jazz was taught. Berklee College of Music was one of them. But I'm not sure that New England Conservatory had started a third stream program at the time. Maybe they had. Manhattan School of Music wasn't teaching jazz, and Eastman wasn't teaching jazz at the time. Ron Carter had gone to Eastman as a classical cellist, but got his jazz education in the clubs in Rochester. But Indiana University was one of the few places that had a jazz a degree in jazz, I believe. And David Baker was teaching there, other people, and they won. And that's where Randy Brecker went to college, Indiana University.
Well, that was a good process of elimination, which is one of Matt Merowitz's skills with this particular competition. So that was a good.
Well, I knew it, but nonetheless, that would be
the way you broke it down. That was good. What Woody Herman trumpet player recorded for Dial Records? Would that be A, Sonny Merman, B, Dave Stahl, C, Bill Chase, D, Forrest Buchtel, or E, Alan Vizzuti?
Willard, you're coming up with the tough ones this week.
Well, the champion always gets the toughest questions.
Yeah, of course. Well, okay. I think I have an idea. I have to say that 3 of the names that you mentioned, I am not familiar with. Those being Dave Stahl, Forrest Buchtel, and Alan Vizzuti. I don't know them. I haven't come across them. Bill Chase, I recall, but he was not around in the 40s during the time of Dial Records. But Sonny Berman was, and he was very high. He was he was an early bopper, died very young from heroin overdose or illness caused by heroin. I'm not familiar with the Dial recordings, but I know Don Schlitten issued a whole record on Onyx back in the 70s of some Sonny Berman tracks. So he was a hardcore bebopper if Schlitten did it. So I'm going to go with A, Sonny Berman, and take my chances.
You took a good chance. That is correct. It was Sonny Berman, who was the Woody Herman trumpet player who recorded for Dial Records. Dave, which of the following trumpet players was never a member of Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers bands? Would that have been A, Donald Byrd, B, Bill Hardman, C, Chuck Mangione, D, Valerie Ponomarev, or E, Art Farmer?
All right, so I'm happy that I have a better chance on this one than I feel like I've had on the previous ones. So I'm just going to start giving how my brain is working now. So I know Chuck Mangione was in the Messengers on that. I think it was like Buttercorn was the name of the record.
Buttercorn Lady.
Buttercorn Lady. And I remember, when I got introduced to the music, what I knew of Chuck Mangione was, Feels So Good. So when I, finally figured out that he was a jazz messenger, that kind of blew my mind. And I know that Valerie Ponomarev was definitely in the Jazz Messengers. So those two, I know it's that immediately removes those two. Art Farmer, had the Jazz Tet around that same era. And Donald Donald Byrd, I feel like he was, that's again, a great, as all of these questions are very great because, so many cats, I guess from the mid 50s up until our Blakey's passing, and he died in 90, were members of the Jazz Messengers alumni. So there's so many kind of cats that came through that, on the Bandstand University. Bill Hardman. My gut is telling me that it's either going to be Bill Hardman or Art Farmer, because I can't think of the record. I'm almost positive that Donald Byrd played on at least one of those Blakey records, either in the late 1950s or early 1960s, when they were going back and forth between Lee Morgan and Freddie Hubbard. I feel like he might have done one of those. Again, I'm gonna probably get this wrong, but let's say E, Art Farmer.
That is correct. Ed, trumpeter Ingrid Jensen is from what Canadian city? Is Ingrid Jensen from Toronto? A. Is she from B, West Vancouver? Is she from C, Montreal? Is Ingrid Jensen from D, Ottawa? Or is Ingrid Jensen from E, North Vancouver?
Willard, you're a demonic questioner. This is a tricky one, because how the heck can somebody from New York know whether someone is from West Vancouver or North Vancouver? Even if there is such a distinction between the two municipalities. And if I'm wrong, then Mr. Gallo is a very smart fellow, is going to know what the answer is. So she's from one of the Vancouvers. Is it west or north? I know she grew up near an island, one of the islands out there, because her sister Christine has written a number of pieces about the topography and geography of the area. Christine Jenkins, a wonderful composer and big band arranger, who features Ingrid on her recordings. So is Ingrid from West Vancouver or North Vancouver? And you're going to buzz me out if I don't pick one, and it's pure guesswork. West or north? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, I'm going to say West Vancouver, B.
But no. That is incorrect. That is incorrect.
You're not only demonic, but cruel.
I'll lead you on. Phil. Phil, trumpeter Ingrid Jensen is from what Canadian city? Is Ingrid from A, Toronto? B, West Vancouver has been eliminated. C, Montreal? D, Ottawa? Or E, North Vancouver?
Well, I'm going to guess that she moved to that side of Canada to perform because there is a Vancouver jazz scene. And as much as I'm tempted to say North Vancouver, I'm going to take a stab at D, Ottawa.
Nope. Ingrid Jensen is from E, North Vancouver? Scott, kind of like the rap battles of today, what song did Miles Davis write in a humorous answer or response to Thelonious Monk's tune, Well, You Needn't? Was that title A, I Didn't, B, So What, C, I Couldn't, D, Why Not, or E, Stick It?
Well, looking at that, So What is, obviously a standard. The other ones I hadn't heard of. Well, You Needn't, I Didn't would be the most logical one, but I guess, yeah, it's tough. It's between I Didn't and So What. I don't think the other three songs exist, but might be wrong about that. So let's see. I'll take a chance just because it's better English and say I Didn't, A.
That is correct. Miles Davis did indeed write the tune I Didn't. Ted, in whose big band did the trumpet players Gerald Wilson and Snooky Young get their big break? Was it A, with Cab Calloway, B, Jimmy Lunsford, C, Fletcher Henderson, D, Count Basie, or E, Lionel Hampton?
That's a good question. Both of those musicians were born before the bebop era and came of age during the late 1930s, when all of the bands that you mentioned, well, Lionel Hampton didn't have a big band then, were big and touring all over the place, and incubated young musicians. Now, I know who this is, but I'm just going to give a process of induction. Cab Calloway had a very established band. Almost everyone in the band was well known. He paid more, I think, than any other of the big band leaders. They traveled in a Pullman car and all this. Fletcher Henderson had an older band, and he was using younger musicians, but although more often with Horace Henderson, with his brother, and he wasn't working so much in the latter 1940s. Basie had his people from Kansas City in the Midwest, and I don't think Snooky Young was from there. Gerald Wilson certainly wasn't. He was from Detroit. And Lionel Hampton didn't have a big band then. So it's Jimmy Lunsford who had such an incredibly popular big band in the 1930s. I once transcribed a bunch of interviews with black women who danced in the chorus lines. A book that Jackie Malone wrote about and they said that Jimmy Lunsford was their favorite band because Jimmy Crawford's time was so smooth and the band was so disciplined. So anyway, Jimmy Lunsford.
And indeed, it was Jimmy Lunsford. All right, Ted. Trumpeter Howard McGee co-led a band called a Bop Tet on a recording date for Norman Granz with which of the following saxmen? Would that have been A, Stan Getz, B, Jimmy Giuffre, C, Zoot Sims, D, Flip Phillips, or E, Herbie Stewart?
Willard, if I get through this, I'm going to have earned it. I know a lot of Howard McGee dates, but I don't know that one. So I'm going to again try the Merowitz principle of elimination. Let's see. All right, who was on? Who did Norman Granz bring on tour
in the late 40s, early 50s, when Howard McGhee was at the height of his popularity. I don't think Getz was on the JATPs because he was a solo artist and he was playing with Woody Herman. And Jimmy Giuffre was also with Woody Herman, and so was John Haley Sims, a.k.a. Zoot. I'm sorry, that's a joke from the last session. I'm sorry. Herbie Stewart, I don't think... I'm going to go, but Flip Phillips was a regular on Norman Granz's Jazz at the Philharmonic concerts and all sorts of situations, and so I'm going to take a guess and think that Norman Granz, although Jimmy Giuffre also recorded for Verve, but I think his Verve recordings were in the later were later in the decade, later in the 50s. So I'm going to cast my lot with Flip Phillips and take my chances. D, Flip Phillips.
That is correct. It was indeed Flip Phillips who worked with Howard McGhee on a Norman Granz recording date titled Bottet. Jason has a chance to catch up by responding correctly to our bonus round question. So, Jason, what record company released Dizzy Gillespie's tune Salt Peanuts in 1945? Was that A, DG Records, B, Guild Records, C, Savoy Records, D, Blue Note Records, or E, Dial Records? Which of those labels released Salt Peanuts in 45?
Okay, I'm going to rule out Blue Note Records because Dizzy hadn't recorded anything for them at that time. And also, that label, man, I don't know the year it started. It would have been very early. I'm not sure if it started yet. If it had, it would have been in its infancy. And I'm not familiar with DG Records or Guild Records. I'm reducing it to E, Dial Records, which, of course, there's the famous Charlie Parker Dial recordings. But I'm going to go with C, Savoy Records. I know Dizzy recorded with them.
I'm afraid not. And Ted looks like he has the correct answer, but look at his face.
No, I'm sorry. I'm such a nerd. I'm such a nerd.
The correct answer to that question, as far as which record label recorded Dizzy Gillespie Salt Peanuts in 1945, was B, Guild Records.
Oh, okay.
We encourage everyone to try your hand and play Jazzology. And if anyone watching would like to become a contestant on Jazzology, click the link and simply fill out the form. You must be 18 years old or older.
And be sure to follow us on social media at Jazzology Trivia Show to get all the latest news and updates.
And if you missed the show live, you can find the archives on the Savage Content YouTube channel. And we will catch you all